3.5 months on from the success of the North vs South Imperialism video, we are back, and this time we're going big. You see, this is the first part of a 9-episode series where we will take the best country from each continent around the world and put them against each other in a massive tournament. This is the Africa episode. Subscribe if you're going to enjoy it, and let's do this. But before we start, if you haven't seen an Imperialism before, I'll explain the rules. First, we spin the wheel with each African nation on it. Then we spin an arrow and the direction it points determine who it plays. So if the wheel picks Algeria and then the arrow spins to the left, then Algeria would play Morocco. Simple enough. Now let's actually do this. First up, we have Libya, and they would play Nigeria. It was a convincing win for the Super Eagles as they won 4-0 over Libya, with Lukman and Sadiq getting 1 and Chukwueze getting 2. But on to the next game, and we have Senegal, who would play neighbours Guinea-Bissau. Ndai pounced on a rebound to make it 1, and a Niang brace confirmed a 3-1 win for Senegal. But let's take a look at this Pele screamer. That itself deserves a win. Moving into the heart of Africa, and it was Burundi who would play Tanzania. The winner would claim most of Lake Victoria, so stakes were pretty high, and the game stayed 0-0 until the 94th minute where Tanzania got a penalty. Samatta stepped up, missed, and then scored the rebound to claim a 1-0 win. Next up, we have two giants of Africa playing each other, Nigeria and Algeria. Amare's header met the foot of Andy Delors, who finished very well into the bottom corner, and that was that. A 1-0 win for Algeria as they wiped out a massive competitor pretty much immediately. Burkina Faso played next, and they played Niger. They went 120 minutes without scoring and so went to penalties. And also, don't question why they're playing on a basketball court. Your guess is as good as mine. 3 players missed across both teams, but it was Niger who missed twice as Burkina Faso got through and claimed a massive chunk of land. Moving down south, and Angola faced off against Zambia. Angola dominated with a 2-0 victory thanks to goals from Freddy and Nzola. They also got a lot of land with this, as well as 2/3 of Victoria Falls. That's definitely worth something. Heading back up to the north, Algeria played off against World Cup semi-finalist Morocco, and an early mistake was pounced on by Mahrez and Delors as they combined for another goal. Morocco weren't phased though, as in the 61st minute, Nordin Amrabat levelled the scores. The game would go into extra time, and Benrahma found the second for Algeria in the 103rd minute, before Morocco crumbled 2 minutes later as Boudaoui got the third. 3-1 was the final score as another quality team was wiped out of contention. Now we move back to the spine of Africa as Zimbabwe played off against Botswana. It was a convincing 2-0 win for Zimbabwe as Ndlovu and Bilak got the goals. Again, we have another massive matchup. Egypt played against Algeria. Delors bagged again before Zizou scored a great free kick to level the game 7 minutes after half time. And in the closing stages, Benzabaini buried his penalty to put Algeria back in front before the Egyptian king himself, Mo Salah, fortunately took the game into extra time. Another 30 minutes passed with no more goals, so we have penalties. Salah stepped up first, and like the Senegal match, the Arsenal match, the Bournemouth match, he missed. Algeria went on to miss 0 penalties as the the Fennec Foxes, the Desert Warriors, come on man, make your mind up. They won, and once again eliminated a massive nation from the continent. Namibia played next, and they played Madagascar in a banging 1-0 game. Peter Chalalil scored the only goal of the game as Madagascar striker Andrea scored an impressive 5.4 rating. Who knows what open goals he missed in this game. On to game 11, and Eswatini played off against South Africa. Pretty obvious how this one went. South Africa won 3-0 and Peter Shalulil sneaked into the South Africa team. My bad for that. I wanted to use the best team from each country as the badge, and it just so happens that Peter the Namibian plays for the Sundowns in the South African Premier League. Moving back to the middle of Africa, and Togo played Benin. Bibu assisted Denki for the first before Segbafia bagged the second. Benin weren't going down easy though as Sessegnon scored a banger, but it wasn't enough as it ended 2-1. Into the east, and Sudan faced off against Eritrea. Even if you don't know a player from either team, it should be pretty obvious who wins this. And just look at the names in the score sheet. They take up 2 lines. Well, Sudan won 4-1 thanks to their long name bowlers, and they claimed the highly sought after lands of Eritrea. Tanzania played again, this time against Mozambique. The scores were tied up until the 91st minute where Witty crossed the ball to Camo Camo, who got the winner. A very deserved win. And what a name. Hopefully Camo Camo can keep scoring goals as Mozambique claim a massive amount of land in the form of Tanzania. Talking about Mozambique, they played again, this time against Namibia. I really cannot say that country. Peppo scored a penalty in the 28th minute to make it 1-0 before Zainadine Jr. made it 2. Shalulil managed to get one back with his country's only shot on target, but it wasn't enough as they lost 2-1. Game 16 was Burkina Faso as they played Mali and attempted to seize another massive country. Mali actually have a really good team, and so this was a much harder task, and it proved to be as Mali won 2-0 thanks to Djenepo and Decore. But it's what happens next which annoys me. I wrote down that Mali won and that Burkina Faso were out, but on the map I gave the territory to Burkina Faso. Don't ask what was going through my head, because I don't know. But don't worry, because this is not the last of Mali, because they are still well and truly in this game. But now we have the most highly anticipated tie in game 17 as, get this, Ethiopia played against Djibouti, and Ethiopia won through a penalty in a 1-0 win. What a game. Next is the first time an island nation played, and it was the Seychelles as they went against Mozambique. Yes, I know Madagascar is an island, but it's huge. Well, Mozambique won 4-0 as Camo the GOAT got all 4. Obviously the islands are too small to get their own flag, and so I made it that if someone beat an island nation, their flag would sit in the ocean, and if an island won, then their flag would obviously be on the continent as well as appear where their original island is. As I said, Mali would be back, and this time they played against Ivory Coast. Djenepo ran the show, getting 2 assists to Touré and Bissouma. So they were back on the map, and instead of controlling 4 countries, they had 1 piece of land. Just imagine the Mali flag where Burkina Faso is. Ethiopia were back to play our long-named friends over in Sudan, and Ethiopia scored first through a Nazir chip before they got a penalty, which they scored again. Next was Ghana, who played against Togo. Kuda scored a penalty, FIFA scored off a great cross, and Salazou also scored from a set piece as Forson got 2 assists and Ghana got a convincing 3-0 win. Now we have Liberia, and they faced off against the superpower that is Algeria at this point. Although they scored 1 goal through Lafort to take the lead, Delors responded with a 6-minute hat-trick after half-time, and Algeria won 3-1. Cape Verde played next, and even though their islands are clearly visible on a map, this blank map didn't have them, so this was a mission to get onto the map. Playing against a good Senegal team was their challenge, and they took the lead through Duarte after 11 minutes. Then a brace of penalties was scored by Bebe before Niakate pulled one back just before half time. In the second half, Bebe certified his pen merchant status as he got a hat-trick of penalties which saw Cape Verde beat Senegal. Algeria played again, and this time they played Chad. The game was only 1-0, but Algeria had 4 expected goals. They only got their 1 goal thanks to a masterclass from Chad keeper Alain Batnan. A true Chad performance. With this, they got a lot more land to really become a titan of Africa. So, where do we stand after 24 games have been played? Well, Algeria control the entire north coast bar Tunisia, as well as Nigeria's land. Mali don't have the land they truly deserve, but are still chilling on the coast regardless. Ethiopia control a lot of the coast of the Red Sea, Cape Verde are on the map, Angola control 2/3 of the Victoria Falls, and Mozambique are also becoming a titan of Africa, controlling a lot of the east coast, half of Lake Victoria, as well as the Seychelles and Madagascar. There are still many countries who are yet to play and could just be waiting for the other countries to do the dirty work for them before getting a shock result. But before we continue, if you've enjoyed this video so far, like it and subscribe if you haven't already, because you definitely don't want to miss the videos building up to the massive tournament in the finale. But intermission over, let's get back into the games. Getting back into the swing of things, we have another huge match. North versus South as Algeria played South Africa. Peter the Namibian got the opener in the 40th minute before Mahrez responded with an equaliser 2 minutes after half time. 3 minutes after that, Mahrez whipped in a ball which met Mandy's head to make it 2-1, and just like that, South Africa were gone and the Shalulu story had come to an end. Moving back to the west, and Cape Verde were attempting their takeover by playing the Gambia. They actually have a really good team for such a small country, but the islands of Cape Verde were too much for them as Stopera, Rocha Santos and Zé Luiz scored to make it 3-1. Musa Barrow scored a penalty for Gambia's only goal, but Pen Merchant Bebe actually missed a penalty in the 3rd minute. Now we have a massive up on my end. Even though Madagascar were wiped out by Peter the Namibian 17 games ago and are now controlled by Mozambique, I still let them play against Mayotte, which is a tiny island located between Madagascar and mainland Africa and is controlled by France. Madagascar only won 1-0 to be honest, so there would have been massive outrage if an upset had been pulled off. I also just brought Madagascar back into the game for some reason by giving them their island back. So once again, if you can just imagine a Mozambique flag in the water and on the island, that would be nice. Next up is a big rivalry, I guess. We have the Congo versus the Congo. In the 17th minute, Mbenza found the net for Congo before Katuta scored the equaliser for Congo. But Congo did manage to take the game to extra time before slipping up in the final minute to an Elia goal, courtesy of a Muko mistake. If you don't know who Elia is, he plays for Young Boys and is from the DRC. Guinea played next, and the arrow pointed west, out into the ocean and across the world, and we end up back at the east coast where Ethiopia are. Mariba scored a pen within 8 minutes before Belachu got the equaliser in the 81st. The two teams went all the way to pens after extra time as Saleh missed for Ethiopia, Panon missed, and Guinea scored all 4 of their spot kicks. Mozambique played first timers Malawi. Malawi went ahead in the 5th minute through a set piece and Fodia's noggin. Then Reginaldo, also an amazing name, squared it to Whitty, who got the equaliser with 8 minutes left on the clock. It stayed that way until the 90 was done, so we had extra time. But in the 110th minute, who else to step up to the plate than Camo, who smashed a volley top bins to secure the victory for Mozambique. Whitty also scored again in the 120th thanks to a Reginaldo pass once again. Next up was the island of Reunion, also a French territory, who managed to land on Guinea as their opponents. Fair to say, this one was a bloodbath. 5 goals later and Reunion were out of the imperialism. Guinea played again as they attempted their takeover of the East as they played Kenya. It started off strong in the first 12 minutes as Bio scored a penalty, but Kenya responded 20 minutes later with Noor Uma. After these early goals, no more was scored in normal time, so extra time it was. In the 97th, a pinball goal put Kenya ahead in the tie, but Guinea weren't done. Cabo responded 10 minutes later with an equaliser that took the game to pens. It was 7-6 on pens to Kenya as they scored each one and rectified the Wanyama miss in the 65th minute, which we sadly can't see. Mali played again, and this time against Ghana. Tariq Lamptey went on a messy run and scored the opener in the 14th minute before Kuda scored to make it 2, and this time legitimately eliminate Mali from the game. Now we have another first timer as South Sudan faced off against Kenya, and even though the country just turned 12, they actually have a better team than their much bigger neighbour. Either way, Kenya took the lead in the 32nd minute before Majek levelled for South Sudan. Oda then went on a messy run in the last minute of extra time and scored the winner to ensure Kenya got over the hurdle of South Sudan. 2 massive countries faced off this time around as Angola played the DRC in what would result in a lot of land for the winner. They really played it like a final and went to penalties without any goals going in. Wissa missed the second pen for the DRC, and despite his teammates all scoring, Angola made no mistake and scored all 5 of their pens to confirm the takeover of pretty much all of the rainforest in Africa and one of the biggest countries. A much smaller and predictable matchup now as Algeria played Lesotho. This was just another match as it ended 5-1 to the green Fennec Fox Desert Warriors. Algeria played again as they once again played a small nation. Sao Tome and Principe is 2 islands off the coast near Gabon and Cameroon, and I won't lie to you, they have an alright team. I don't have a good pronunciation of that country though. But this good team is nothing that Algeria couldn't beat as they won 1-0, but only in the 89th minute after taking 20 shots in total. Equatorial Guinea also have a pretty decent team for such a small country, and they played neighbours Gabon as both teams played their first games of the video. Gabon got 2 through Manga and of course the main man Aubameyang to seal the deal and win 2-0 and claim the tiny bit of land. Mauritania are also yet to play in this video, and they had the joy of going against high flyers Cape Verde. Cape Verde got another penalty to make it 1-0 in the 71st minute, but Mauritania pulled one back 10 minutes later to send the game to extra time and eventually penalties. Samba missed for Mauritania, and Cape Verde, with their experience from the spot, scored all 5 of theirs and got themselves a lot of land. Now we have an unexpected huge matchup. The winner of this one would secure pretty much the whole of the East Coast as well as a lot of land. It's Mozambique versus Kenya. In the 33rd minute, Odo made it 1-0 before Noor Uma made it 2-0 7 minutes later. And that was it. Mozambique fumbled their big chance, and now Kenya control a lot of Africa. Moving back to the north, and Tunisia finally faced off against Algeria. In the 10th minute, a Sakiri mistake was pounced on by Brahimi and Delors, who made it 1-0. In the 86th minute though, Tunisia got their equaliser through a penalty, and once again they went all the way to penalties. But that wasn't before Algeria missed a pen of their own in the 119th minute. Surely a moment that would fire the Tunisian players up to try and secure the win and most of Africa in the process. Well, Sassi missed for Tunisia, and Algeria scored all 5 of their pens to survive another close call. Zanzibar actually have a national team, which I didn't know, and somehow avoided all of the countries up until the point where they played Angola. Angola went 2-0 up thanks to goals from Bastos and Kisangani, but in the 87th minute, Simon pulled one back for Zanzibar, but it wasn't enough. They were out, and Angola had won another match. Get used to these guys though, because they played again, and this time against Somalia. A 10th minute Freddy goal was the difference, as Somalia didn't really have anything to show, and Angola got the final piece of the East Coast puzzle. And they played again, this time against Zimbabwe in a battle for all thirds of the Victoria Falls. Helder Costa scored a rebound in the 52nd minute before a looping Lukoki shot found the net to make it 2-0. It got worse for Zimbabwe as a Kisanga free kick confirmed a 3-0 win. 2 great teams played next as Algeria faced off against Ghana. Mahrez scored a rare header from a Goulam shot to open the scoring, but but Ghana responded with Iñaki Williams, who got the equaliser. 5 minutes later though, Benzabaini kept up his scoring streak from the penalty spot as his goal was the eventual winner. Back to Angola now, and they went against Rwanda. Kisanga got the opener from a corner in the 54th minute before Nzola fired one in 2 minutes later. But Kalisa got a fortunate goal 8 minutes later as Angola scraped through. So we have 10 matches left in this imperialism, so let's take a look at the map. Well, the map is dominated by the likes of Algeria, Angola and Kenya. Sierra Leone, Uganda, Comoros, Mauritius and the Central African Republic are still yet to play their first game, and Madagascar are still on the map thanks to my up. We're on the final straight now, so let's get back into these games. Well, we have a big challenger for Kenya as Cape Verde played against them. Djani found the opener in the 8th minute for Cape Verde, and they got their second a few minutes later through Stapiro. But an Akumu header for Kenya got them back in the game just before 30 minutes. But another set piece in favour of Cape Verde made it 3-1 just after half time. But a minute later, Olunga and Kenya were not giving up as they pulled another one back to make it 3-2. And another but, Bebe and De Grazia got 2 more for Cape Verde as they rounded out 5-2 winners. Could have been so different as well if Wanyama hadn't missed another penalty in the 18th minute. So the islands of Cape Verde now control a large majority of Africa as they conquered Kenya. Angola played again and they were against the island of Mauritius. I think you know what the result's gonna be. It was 2-0 to Angola as Nzola and Freddy both bagged and Angola claimed another island. Next up was the Central African Republic and they played against Angola. 1 goal separated the two teams and it was Angola who got the winner through Bastos and a rebound. Another first timer played in the form of Sierra Leone who played against Cape Verde. Djani got the opener for Cape Verde before Kanu got the equaliser for Sierra Leone in the 54th minute. A Babanco free kick somehow went in and then De Grazia scored the third as Cape Verde continued to win matches and conquer countries. Angola played again and this time they were against Uganda. And well, for the first time, Angola slipped up as Mia scored a penalty for Uganda in the 85th minute to win their debut match in this game and also take over a lot of Africa. Uganda only had 3 shots compared to Angola's 12, so this was definitely a massive upset. And just like that, the map has changed. And this meant Uganda played again, and this time they were against Cape Verde. And it was Cape Verde who got the opener through Arkanjo in the 2nd minute. Uganda got their equaliser through Anaku though to send the game into extra time. But in the 110th minute, super sub Zé Luiz got to the ball first from a corner to win Cape Verde the game and take over most of Africa. Returning favourites Algeria, who we haven't seen for a while, were back and this time they had no choice but to play Cape Verde. In the 65th minute, Brahimi crossed the ball to Delors who found the back of the net. Then a threaded pass from Faguli found Delors and he duly finished it to make it 2-0, which is how the game would end, with a Djani penalty miss summing up the game for Cape Verde. There aren't many teams left who haven't played, but one of them was the Comoros Islands who had to play Algeria. Algeria got to work as Ben Rama laid it off to Delors who scored again with 20 minutes to go. But then out of nowhere, and I mean literally nowhere, Mahamoud smashed in an equaliser for the Comoros as the comeback may have been on. But then in the 91st minute, I'm not going to try and say his name, headed in the winner from a beautiful cross to win the game for the Comoros. So these guys have gone from a tiny pair of islands to pretty much all of Africa, just in one very fortunate game. Cameroon must have been licking their lips at other teams bottling it against each other, and this upset meant they played a pretty weak Comoros side instead of the powerhouse that Algeria was. A repeat upset was not on the cards for Comoros as they slumped to a 3-0 loss to Cameroon. So there was one game left, Gabon versus Cameroon. And you are not going to believe this because according to the post-match report, it was a mistake that led to the only goal of the game. That single goal was scored by Bupenza for Gabon as they beat Cameroon and conquered Africa. But this has been the Africa Imperialism. Stay tuned for the rest of this insane series and thank you so much for watching.